started my introduction with a very controversial question. How can we achieve climate transition, achieve a more sustainable energy system, but at an affordable cost? The answer is here. We need a better planning of renewable energy systems using renewable energy. And why is it this? The point is that renewable energy still accounts for a very small amount of the overall energy sector. As you can see in the presentation, in the thermal component, the heating that we use for our houses, our industry, the renewable energy only accounts for 10%. If you look for the transportation, even with so many electrical cars, it is only around 3%. And in the power sector, wind turbines, solar PV is so much, it is only 27% of the overall power. So we want a clean energy system, but we want this to happen at an affordable cost. And because of the price, we still don't have this renewable energy share in higher values. But we can solve it. But to solve, we need to answer several questions. How can you reduce energy curtailment, renewable curtailment? And what are the most cost-efficient technologies to install? How can we make sure that using solar, wind coupled with batteries makes that we have a safe industry and safe energy in our households? Safe in the point the lights don't shut off. We can do it by developing new planning software. So optimization, mathematical optimization can be the answer. There is a lot of research in this field. But as you can see here, there is still a research gap. Because energy software that analyze long-term, but with a high level of precision, they don't exist. There are models that can analyze with a very high amount of precision, but just weeks or days. But analyzing long-term is quite difficult. So that is why we, China Tree Gorges, are planning to develop a model that bridges everything. And this for power, for transportation, and for heating. All the energy parts integrated using renewable energy. For it, we developed a model that, taking away the weather data, wind speed, and radiation, can generate a theoretical electricity profile, what is the generation we can get from the renewable system, but it can also predict the water demand, the load demand, and heating demand. We just input some storage costs, some technology costs, and our model will say how much can we generate hour by hour, what is the cost of the energy transition, and the CO2 savings. Quite an impressive. And it gives us, this model fills a research gap. It is a fast and efficient algorithm, can be applied to different regions, such as small communities, cities, countries, or even isolated regions. And this can give us a very quite good impression of what is the investment we need to achieve the energy transition. So the most controversial part, how can we predict the future energy needs? For that, we need weather, seasonality, and historical demand parameters. That is, taking into account the previous consumption, taking into account the temperature, humidity, if it is rain or not, if it is work day or not, we create a model that can forecast the future needs. And then to analyze the quality of our model, we need to analyze the real value that we have compared to the forecast and see if our model makes sense. The fact is that for a real value, we notice electricity, in our case, can be forecasted with a 96% accuracy, and this for a full year. When you look to the accuracy of water demand is around the same. So it is quite impressive that we can forecast for next years the water demand, water needs of the people. When you go to the heating also even has a higher accuracy in our model, 98%. But now how do we develop the system? So to calculate the value, theoretical value of the solar power plants, we basically use equations that say when we have irradiation or irradiation values, when we have temperature, we calculate the temperature now, we can predict how much will be our solar generation. For wind farms, even easier. We know, we forecast the wind speed, we already have an idea of the electricity generated by wind, which is translated here. Wind speed gives us the generation, the temperature and the irradiation gives the solar PV generation. But now, the controversial part is that we need a battery to make this work. Because if the wind stops spinning, we don't have electricity generation. So for that, we need batteries, large-scale batteries that can match the demand and surplus of electricity. So how it is done? Basically, we put mathematical formulas that just assure that what we generate, what our energy needs, must be balanced, taking into account the losses of the system. But we also have to put constraints on the land, because we can develop an energy system that is renewable, but if we are in a city, we will not cover all the city with wind farms and solar PV power plants. That doesn't make sense. So we put restrictions on the area that is available to develop. Then we assume that the electricity is also used to produce green hydrogen, quite famous now worldwide. So when we have too much electricity, we will not only store part of it, but part of it will be used in an electrolyzer to generate green hydrogen. And this hydrogen will be used for the heating needs. For the water, for isolated communities, what we will assume is that the sea converted to fresh water using here desalination power plants. And here we integrate everything. How do we integrate everything? By using mathematical function that says that we want to achieve this, everything needs to work, but at the minimum cost possible. We don't want a very expensive value. So we want to minimize the installation costs of all of these technologies and the operation and maintenance costs. But now let's look to a real case that shows that our model can work. We decided to study the most isolated region of the Portuguese territory, the island of Corvo, located in Azores. The island of Corvo is the most remote region, around 2,000 kilometers of Portugal mainland. It has a small population, and all energetic imports are based on fossil fuels. So the island doesn't have water, doesn't have freshwater sources, it has a diesel power plant, a perfect scenario to test our model. And when we look to the electricity consumption, we can see it is quite low. So it's good for our testing. And we decided to test the model using 75 scenarios to test different technologies to achieve what is the best mix of technologies that gives us 100% renewable energy at a lower cost. And basically what our model says is that we can achieve climate transition in this example as Corvo, but we need a high value of batteries. Batteries will be the most costly component, which also highlights that researchers need to focus more on this field, on the battery development, if we want to reduce the costs of the energy transition. But our model not only says the costs, not only says how many savings we have, it also shows hour by hour the prediction of the demand for next years. We can see here a model calculating how much can be stored, discharged, and when it will happen. So what is the conclusion of our model? The study can be relevant to development of energy plans of several regions. It fills an important research gap. It makes the bridge between industrial and economic knowledge, and it gives us what is the most cost-efficient renewable capacity mix to achieve 100% renewable energy supply. So overall, the research is a great success, and we can achieve climate transition if we have better planet strategies. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Joao.